Hello, I'm Mark Mason, Communications Manager for Dash, and today's Ask Me Anything is with Yael Tamar, co-CEO and co-founder at SolidBlock. Welcome, Yael, to the AMA, and thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for inviting me, Mark. Really excited to be here.
Excellent. I'm really excited to learn more. For those that did not see the press release, Dash Next formed a partnership with SolidBlock, and they're enabling tokenized real estate with the ability to purchase with Dash and actually get paid out in Dash. So I'm sure this is going to generate a lot of interest in the community. There's been a lot of questions, and Yael's been a really good sport and decided, wanted to come on to answer your questions. But before we begin the AMA, I'd just like to go over the format and a quick overview, just in case there are any first-time watchers, this, just so they know the outline. So this stream is being broadcasted live on several social media platforms. For those of you watching, may I kindly ask that you like and share this video stream so that we can reach as many people as possible. The AMA today will be for 60 minutes. Please feel free to start submitting your questions in the comment sections. We will do our very best to answer as many of your questions as possible. Please do try to keep your questions short and direct as possible. And while we wait for the first few questions to come in, I have prepared a few questions from the Dash community to start with. So with that out the way, we can begin. So Yael, are you ready?
Absolutely. Me and Speedy are ready. I have my wonderful colleague here.
Speedy the cat, the SolidBlock master.
Speedy the cat, exactly. The three-legged cat.
Okay, so for those watching, just a reminder, please start submitting your questions. I'm going to keep an eye out for them. And let's just start from the very, very beginning, because this might be the first time people are hearing about this concept. So what exactly does it mean to tokenize a real estate asset?
Tokenization is really two things. Number one is securitization. Number two, it's digitization. Securitization, for anybody who's ever invested in stocks or bonds or possibly even some tokens, they probably invested in securities, right? So security is just basically an obligation of a company or an asset to pay you either dividends or interest or upside when those assets are sold, right? Those are securities, plain vanilla, right? Now, what blockchain adds to this concept is to record ownership of these securities on the blockchain instead of recording it in some, Excel database or SQL database or anything like that, right? So when you combine the securitization, very traditional financial process, with digitization, the very, 2010 up to 2020 process, right? 2021 right now, process, you have what I call the bridge from centralized to decentralized finance. Why? Well, first of all, with tokens, with the securities in the form of tokens, you can start trading, right? Traditional securities are very difficult to trade if they're issued in a private form. If they're issued in a public form, obviously you can trade them on stock exchanges and so on, right? If they're issued in a private form in the United States and also now all over the world, you're able to trade, or in select countries all over the world, right? You're able to trade private securities. This is a new regulation that came out in the US in 2012, in other countries shortly thereafter. In Israel, just came out last year, that you can actually trade privately issued securities. But how will you trade? Well, it's very difficult because you need these intermediaries, once again, which are kind of, spoiling our life. Now, what blockchain allows us to do is trade directly peer-to-peer. And that's what that's what blockchain is all about. So tokenization is converting these traditional securities into tokens on steroids. You can start trading them. You can actually start investing with the thought of selling these securities later at a certain profit. Why do you expect a profit? Well, number one, the value of real estate increases over time. Their population increases. There are different trends in the market that make certain type of real estate increase, right? You can do the same with companies and equity, although there's much higher risk. It may increase, it may decrease. Hopefully that helps.
Wow, thank you. Yeah, very informative. So I think you actually covered some of the stuff there, because I was going to ask what just in case I'm missing anything, what are the main advantages of tokenized real estate? Because I'm guessing the big elephant in the room would be the fractional ownership of real estate and simplifying that. But is there any more other advantages that perhaps I'm not thinking of that really benefit real estate by tokenizing it?
Well, there's short term and there's long term. In the short term, you gain access to assets like the ones behind me. Do you, as an individual, have access to investing in the Empire State Building or in one of the skyscrapers in New York City, right? Or even the Aspen Ski Resort, for example, which we tokenized. Could you put $10,000 in that asset if you wanted to? The answer is probably not. You need several $1 million to put on those assets that really possess the opportunity to grow and provide you with a stable income, right? So first of all, tokenized real estate gives you access. Second of all, you don't have to sit there on that investment for years. You can go out and, you can get out and buy other types of assets, right? So that's the beauty of liquidity. Now we can utilize the power of exchanges. Hopefully, Coinbase is going to join the rank of exchanges that can trade securities. Right now, they're limited to very specialized exchanges with specific digital securities license like T0, INX, Texture Capital, Rialto, North Capital. Those are the ones in the US. But hopefully traditional ones and bigger ones like Coinbase are going to join too. And sorry, I forgot about the long term. These are all the short term. But the long term, think about new financial products, a new type of finance that can build around digital real estate. You can collateralize it much easier and get a loan like you would get a mortgage, but you have to go to the bank. You have to be banked, right? You have to pass all kinds of, thresholds for a bank. But with digital securities, obviously, you have to still do KYC, AML, and all that stuff. But you may be able to find a lender who will collateralize your tokens. That's one thing. Another thing is being able to aggregate them easily, creating index funds. You as an individual can create your own portfolio. You didn't have that opportunity before. You can buy an apartment if you have extra $100,000. That's all you can do with $100,000. You cannot put a portfolio of 10 different assets around the world. So that's kind of some of the long-term benefits.
Excellent, thank you.
I see loads of questions, by the way. I don't know how we're going to do this.
Yeah, I know, it's great. We'll try to get through as many as possible. So I'll get to your question in a second. I'm just waiting for them to populate a bit more. But so just for my current understanding, SolidBlock kind of works with property developers, is that correct? So in terms of like what you're offering now for Dash, you're currently working with a property developer. Can you just tell us a little bit about what's available to our Dash users currently and what may be available in the future?
Absolutely. So we are accepting all kinds of means of payments on our platform, on the SolidBlock platform, which is marketplace.solidblock.co. When you go to our platform, you're going to be able to buy certain assets that are listed on that platform. There are certain limitations as well, which I'll talk about in a minute. When you go and buy assets, you can pay via fiat, do a bank transfer. You can pay in crypto, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Dash. And you can also pay, so those are the two options to get paid, I guess. You can pay in points that you accumulated from previous investments as well. We're giving some special points, right, to everybody. So those are the three ways you can buy real estate. I have to mention something that's related to compliance. SolidBlock is not a regulated entity or a broker-dealer. So we are allowed, because of certain exemptions, to take investment from what's called accredited or sophisticated investors on our platform. So when you go to invest on SolidBlock platform in Dash, you're going to be able to do that if you are what's called an accredited or sophisticated investor, so have certain income threshold. Why is it done this way? That's not the way we choose to do it, obviously, but that's our level of compliance. This is done in the United States to protect investors from investing in what's called unregistered securities that are not traded publicly. So what we're doing for retail level investors, basically for anybody, we're allowing investors to invest through crowdfunding platforms. Now, crowdfunding platforms currently, majority of them do not accept Dash. Majority of them do not accept crypto. So what do we offer for retail investors if they still, in the Dash community, if they still want to invest? We're offering to send payouts, meaning dividends or interest, in Dash, no matter what you're invested in. You could have invested with regular dollars or pesos or whatever you guys have. You can invest through Republic platform, which doesn't currently accept Dash, and we are looking for crowdfunding platforms that do. And the minute we find them, we will partner with them and work with them, because our plan is to serve the crypto community. We come from the crypto community, so we want to give back. But what we can do is we can actually pay out dividends and interest in Dash. And with this specific project we're launching right now, this is London residential single family real estate that we're buying and selling. We are indeed, to your question, Mark, we're indeed partnering with developers and sponsors, right? Real estate developers and sponsors, because we are a tech platform at the end of the day. We choose the best partners with extensive track records. And we are, so our partner in the UK is London Chelsea. So they will be buying and selling, and we will collectively, we're 50-50 partners with them. We are going to distribute 10 to 15% annual interest, on that product. So if you invested $10,000 in the product, you should expect at least $2,500 back this year, and possibly even more, depending on how well the company does. And again, you can receive it in your Dash wallet.
Excellent. Wow. Thank you. Okay, so let's start getting some of the questions, but I kind of want to ask this one, but expand on something that you just said as well, just for clarity for our viewers.
Yes.
So Herman's Crypto Guide asks, is this feature already live? Can you already buy real estate tokens with Dash? Well, yes, you can. However, I just want to expand upon this. So just for clarity, so there's no room for error or misunderstanding. So you said within the United States, you need to be an accredited investor, but outside of the US, you can just be that's open to retail investors. Is that correct?
So through our platform, it's not. So, okay, let me also explain another thing. There's primary and secondary market. On exchanges that trade securities like T0 and INX, we have to go and check if they accept Dash. So there shouldn't be any limitation of retail investors. As far as our platform being able to accept retail investors, we ask for what's called self-accreditation. So we'll ask you to go into our platform and certify. If you're outside of the US, we'll ask you to certify that you are accredited investor. We're not going to ask you for proof, but we'll definitely ask, just because. Why are we doing this? Because we cannot look into regulation in every single country. So it's generally acceptable to take funds from accredited investors globally. Everybody should definitely be aware of their own standing and their own compliance. So you can go to our website and go through the process. And by the way, things can change. We might tomorrow find a crowdfunding partner that will accept Dash, and then we'll notify everybody who registered, and let them know that they can now purchase tokens freely, no matter where they are. So hopefully, we'll as this market develops all the time, every single day.
Yeah, really interesting. Yeah, and I see what you're saying. The importance of the secondary market as well, which I think is a big concept in itself for people to familiarize themselves with. So essentially, people have these fractionalized ownership tokens of this real estate property, but later on down the line, they can then trade these on a secondary market, and then people then can, that opens up to everyone potentially. But as you say, you have to find the secondary markets for this. This is still in its infancy, and you're being a part of the journey. But initially, for those people to actually get the tokenized assets, you need those accredited investors right now. But it's a process.
Yeah, it's definitely a process. And by the way, there is a major change in Like even the definition of accredited investor is changing in the US from somebody with a certain level of income to somebody with a good understanding of finance. So I expect that there will be tests, there will be different ways to do this. It's not ready yet. So what I would advise for everybody here, and by the way, this is not investment advice in any shape or form. I'm not a licensed investment advisor, and but so what I would advise, if you are an accredited investor, then go through our platform. Invest in this product. It's a great product. It's called London Digital Bonds, and you can see there is a big icon accepts Dash on the platform, so you can invest in Dash. If you're a retail level investor, in the United States, you can go through Republic, invest in fiat and get your payout in Dash. In fact, within 3 years or so, you should be able to return all of the money that you invested. 3 to 4 years, you'll be able to return all the money you invested in Dash, right? So it will go into your Dash wallet. And if you're outside of the US, there's different levels of being an accredited investor. Check in your country what it is. You can self-certify on our platform and invest in Dash, hopefully. So that's what I would say. And otherwise, just sign up. Go and sign up on our platform. Even if you don't pass the accreditation mark, we're going to let you know as soon as the status changes, or we find a partner. We found a partner that accepts crypto. They haven't opened Dash for whatever reason, and I actually told Mark to try to talk to them. And if that materializes, then it might happen in the next few weeks.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Okay. Well, follow-up question. Herman's very interested. So do I get daily dividends? If not, when's the dividend interval? So is it weekly, monthly, quarterly? It's a real estate asset, right? So it's not like taking a coin and interval. So this is a professional investment, so it has a long-term view, so to speak. So how does that work on the intervals of the payouts?
Yeah, so fiat investors get it quarterly. For Dash investors, right now, we established it on a monthly basis, and we may be able to also do it on a weekly basis in the future. We have some considerations such as the costs of transfer. We work right now on an Ethereum blockchain that might change in the future as well. That's it might be a little costly to do a daily or a weekly. So as you can see, the product is evolving, right? So the idea is if we were to sit there and think of what is the best and the cheapest way to do this, it's probably take another year for us to launch. So we decided we're going to launch with what we have, with the Ethereum platform, and we'll give Dash users monthly and possibly in the future quarterly payouts. This is interest for London Digital Bond. That would be interest. And, if we see that we can do this cheaply in the future, we'll do weekly and we'll do daily. So by the way, if anybody here in the Dash community is a developer, crypto enthusiast and so on and so forth, we're always happy to bring talented people to our team. So reach out to me over LinkedIn or Twitter at Yael Tamar, or, my email address, yael@solidblock.co. Send me your bio. We'd be happy to talk to anybody who wants to get involved.
Okay, thank you very much. And another follow-up question. So this is interesting because you're probably going to have to differentiate and explain, because there's a difference. There's a lot of people familiar with Ethereum tokens, as in the ERC20s, but like you're a security token. So the process of actually tokenizing real estate is interesting. So Herman asked, does every real estate has its own token, or is there a name for the real estate token on the platform? So my understanding is that each property has its own security token. Am I understanding that correctly?
It depends on how you structure it, but I think that's what Herman is asking here. So we have, for example, a Phuket-based hotel which is raising $12 million, and it is a token. It's a single token. London Digital Bonds is a bond, which is securitized via multiple properties. So because they're small in value, $500,000 to £1 million, we're going to instead tokenize the whole value of the bond that buys and sells properties all the time, right? That's how we structured the product for various reasons, taxation and liquidity. Think about liquidity. When you have small market cap products, liquidity is severely limited. So we want to have higher market cap. That's one thing that we're aware of. The other thing is we're actively creating ways to increase liquidity. One of them is aggregation. We'll put several tokens in an index fund, and then we'll be trading that. Right. So we're working off of an assumption that larger projects are better. And if there's smaller projects, they might need to be aggregated either on the fund level or, putting tokens together. Now, every time we issue a token, it requires work in terms of structure, in terms of compliance, in terms of business model, and so on and so forth. So obviously, larger projects make more sense for us to do, at least at this point.
That is interesting, because I kind of have a follow-up question to that. Because you have a marketplace and you have property developers that present things to you. So you have to evaluate those properties and partners before listing. So how does that work? Because you need to make sure the people that you bring to the marketplace are checked out. And I know you have a huge team of experience. So how do you go? What is your process? How do you evaluate properties before you put them on the marketplace?
That's a great question, Mark, because we're going to segue that into how we can improve that process and get the community involved. Because in crypto, and especially in Dash, it's all about the community, right? So right now, indeed, we have to conduct our own due diligence. We have some partners that help us conduct due diligence, but we do indeed have to make sure that all the properties that go in the marketplace are legit, not only from the legal perspective, but also from the business perspective. This is where our real estate experience comes in handy. However, that makes us reject about 99% of the properties that come to us, right? Number one, because they might not fit the threshold. Number two, we may not have capacity to add them. So this year, our plan is to issue another 10 to 12 properties. Next year, we're planning to issue much more. How are we going to achieve that? We are creating a decentralized governance ecosystem, which is called SolidCoin. And that governance ecosystem will consist of different partners like asset managers, investment banks, and other companies that have high real estate assets under management, right? Around $500 million in assets under management. So we'll give those members of the ecosystem the right to vote on which projects go in, right? So, and that will be done in a proof of assets or proof of stake mechanism. And obviously these ecosystem partners will vote with their wallets. If they decide to fund the projects, they'll fund the projects. We'll always leave 10 to 20% of the project funding to community members. So there will be one or two nodes that will consist entirely of people like yourselves. And then you'll be able to, number one, participate collectively in the voting. And then you'll be able to also invest. But likely you'll be able to start investing after the big guys decided that they're investing. Why? Because we also want to protect retail level investors and make sure that those who understand real estate understand it's a good opportunity. But like I said, we'll always leave room for people to benefit, because it's not fair that only big hedge funds and big investment funds and equity funds get all the best assets.
Excellent. Thank you very much. There's a question here regarding the DIF. I think I should probably take this one. So the DIF, for those watching, is the Dash Investment Foundation. Now, Fabio, I'm not a DIF supervisor, so I don't have the authority to speak on this. However, I do think in the interest of diversification and to propel Dash as a positive feedback loop, this is interesting because traditionally when you manage a fund, you diversify bonds, equities, or as we've been doing, taking private equity in businesses that are going to add value or features to the network. Now, this is interesting where you have a decentralized network that could potentially own property. And right now, the DIF does have a bank account. So, just to be crystal clear, Yael said, you can invest with fiat right now, fiat currency, and get, paid in Dash. That has a positive feedback loop within itself, because then they're going to have to acquire that Dash off the market, which pushes the price up and has a positive feedback loop forward for Dash. So it's a really interesting conversation. I'd probably internal conversation with the Dash Investment Foundation, but I think anyone that wants to have a balanced portfolio in real estate, you know, especially in these times where the stimulus is crazy with central banks printing like there is no tomorrow, you know, people always navigate to safe haven assets or hard assets, whether that be physical gold or real estate, you know, fancy artwork. I'm not going to go into NFTs, but the physical art.
I have to say something actually that I just realized. This is a good way for people to buy Dash. You know, even when you go, like, instead of putting your dollars directly into Dash, which of course for Dash is probably preferred outcome, but you can go and you can invest it in our security tokens via Republic, for example, and then you obviously are getting payouts in Dash. And when you're investing in London digital bonds, it is a bond that in 5 years, you know, whoever is purchasing it towards the end, right, is going to get the bond back, and you can get it in Dash, right? So if somebody, let's say, went right now and invested $5,000 through Republic, or even $1,000 through Republic, you're going to be getting $250 in no, not sorry, 250, 1,000 to 1,500 in Dash per year. And then at the end of the 5-year period, whoever is still holding that bond is going to get that $1,000 back in Dash, right? So for me, it's a very favorable outcome because it's, you know, over the period of 5 years, you know, that $1,000 is going to turn into how many? Around either 1,500 or no, a little more. It's $1,700 to $2,000 in Dash for whoever wants Dash, right? At the end of the day.
Yeah, I think this is really, really interesting. So there are no current plans to add more properties in Dash right now, because you
can buy anything in Dash. Right? Okay, so actually, here's the thing: any asset that we have on the SolidBlock platform for accredited investors can be bought in Dash. We, as SolidBlock, can accept Dash. We love Dash. Give us some more Dash. That's SolidBlock. Republic. So for these not every asset can be put on a crowdfunding platform. Unfortunately, there's so many limitations. So we structured specifically the London digital bond in a way that it can be placed on a crowdfunding platform. So that one for retail investors is game. You can go and invest in that one. I think we'll have at least one more project coming up. It has to be a US project, and it has to be, you know, held 100% by a special purpose vehicle. That's just lingo for, you know, compliance. So I think that we'll have one more project very soon. That's more of a development and a little bit of more social enterprise that you'll be able to buy with Dash. So, you know, but I think one is better than zero, right? So we'll start with that. And as you guys see, like, we're super, like, considerate, or not considerate, I would say, like, we're very excited about crypto, and, you know, we come from the crypto space, that we're doing our best to, you know, go step by step. And, you know, we started with one asset, but we're looking for more opportunities to give people in the retail level a way to invest, right? So, and don't worry, in a few months, there will be new secondary markets opening as well. Like, we'll be listing our projects after we raise, we'll be listing them on the secondary market, and you'll be able hopefully to buy there with Dash. And I think that's where Mark's job comes in, right? Go and convince all of these people, like you convinced SolidBlock to accept Dash.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So, okay. So, boring topic, but very, very important. Right? Because whenever there's money involved, you know, people want to feel safe and secure. So I know we spoke about this off camera, but in terms of how users are protected, this is a security. And just because it's tokenized doesn't mean it's treated any differently. So let's just talk about property rights, because this is very important for people, especially like on an international level. So, you know, in terms of how these property rights work on tokenized real estate assets, how does that work? How is it protected by users? Is it any different from the traditional real estate world?
It is definitely very different from real estate, but it's not different from a security, right? That's backed by real estate. It's pretty much the same. What is the difference between investing in real estate and investing in security? Well, when you invest in real estate, you probably are buying an apartment or maybe investing in an apartment complex or in a hotel. You normally cannot invest in a whole complex or a hotel unless you have quite a good amount of money saved, right? A few million probably. But you can buy an apartment in South Dakota for $50,000, let's say. You can do whatever you want with it. You can also write it off for tax purposes and stuff like that, right? That's called active real estate investment. Passive investment or investing in securities usually doesn't carry necessarily the same tax benefits, but it is convenient. Somebody else is managing your asset. You're getting your interest and dividend. You don't have to manage your asset. Most people in the crypto space probably come under that category, right? So in terms of how you are protected, well, for the last few years, everybody was upset at the SEC and other regulators because they're stifling the crypto industry. On the other hand, in this case, the SEC, or I would say maybe not the SEC necessarily, but FINRA are protecting your interests, right? Because we are actually issuing a security, not necessarily a registered security, which would be, let's say, going public, but it is an unregistered and private security. You still have rights, and we're still liable. SolidBlock as an issuer is liable, of course, and we have to check protected. Okay, investors are protected by running stringent KYC, AML, and so on and so forth, right? So you get my drift. You guys are protected because you're investing in a security, especially in the United States, which is the highest level of protection. And that's number one. Number two, there's always an issue of what happens if I don't get my interest. What happens if I don't get my dividend? What happens if the project goes into default, right? Everything crashes. Like, do I get my investment back? So what we are doing is employing traditional mechanisms. Money is protected on your behalf, on the investor's behalf, and fix the situation. If there is a special economic reason why you're not getting your dividends or interest, they will get involved and get things on track. And if they can't get things on track, they will declare the project is going into default and then distribute, sell off the assets and distribute the revenue to investors. Now, for that, you have to see, as any investor in any security, when you invest in a real estate project passively, you always have to see if there is a senior lender, like a mortgage, right, on the property. If there is a mortgage on the property, you're likely not going to get any money back if there is a default, right? So if you're investing in a relatively risky property, maybe it's a development of an office building, for example, right? You have to ask yourself, what happens if this project doesn't get finished, or if this specific developer is not suitable, or they don't have a track record, and there is a mortgage on the property, most likely you're not going to get any money back. That does not relate to tokenization or not. Anytime you invest in something, that's always a possibility, that's always a threat. So what will happen on the SolidBlock platform? We still don't have those features available. Like I said, we're a startup, so we have certain plans for the future. What you will see on our platform about a year from now is a data module where we're going to list these types of risks for you guys to consider and analyze. A part of the need for these types of modules and risk analysis came from requests from institutions. Institutions are a part of the mass adoption for these types of products, and they definitely don't operate without the data. Unfortunately, a lot of people in the crypto industry and a lot of people, just retail investors, operate and buy different assets without necessarily looking into different risks and potential, right? That might be familiar to some people. So what I would say, still educate yourself on the risks and the outcomes, whatever you invest in on our platform or otherwise. We have very stringent requirements for our platform in terms of yield and risk analysis. So we wouldn't put anything on the platform that we wouldn't invest ourselves, and we are investing ourselves. We are the issuer. We're investing our time, our money, our marketing dollars. We're investing in each project that we put on the platform.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Yeah, so I'm kind of wondering what the origin was behind this, because I'm looking at your background and it says real estate for everyone. And obviously you have a vision. So do you see the future of real estate ownership just being fractionalized? We have an increase in population. We're now starting to see the increase of security tokens being moving towards shares, in terms of taking equity of companies. Now, in terms of real estate, it's an interesting conversation because different countries feel differently about real estate ownership. Like France, for example, a lot of their population prefer to rent than own. But now for a lot of younger people, they find it so difficult to get their first step on the property ladder because of increasing prices because of the central banks. So, I mean, surely you thought about it. So do you think the future of real estate is tokenized fractional ownership?
I think the future of real estate is finally a tool for people to be able to gain wealth and to maintain wealth, right? So people who invested in Dash, for example, and people who hold Dash or any other crypto, why are people buying Dash, right? Why do people believe in holding crypto rather than fiat and using crypto rather than fiat? Well, obviously those who bought it initially, we're thinking they're investing in something that's going to grow and you're going to grow with it and maintain, grow a certain level of wealth. And then as it becomes more mainstream, it's about maintaining that wealth, right? And it's about not being a part of inflationary tendencies with fiat currencies, for example. I personally bought a lot of Bitcoin, back in 2017, 2018, so I could pay my employees overseas. Right. So for me, it had perfect utility of not having to send money overseas with lots of fees. Right. So obviously crypto has different uses, different utility, and real estate right now or ever has always been a stable asset that help people maintain wealth. Right. Most people that own real estate, either inherited it or, bought it at some point. And that enabled them to start growing, enabled them to collateralize real estate and gain, loans and invest that in other products. It built business, right? That's how actually this difference between the top wealthy people and everybody else is the fact that they have certain assets that they can leverage. So that's our goal in SolidBlock, is to enable everybody across the board to do that. Now, you can do that now with certain crypto, by the way, obviously. That's where you park crypto and you get, you leverage it and you get payouts, and that's fantastic. And I love that trend. I think that's definitely an alternative. I like the real estate asset class just because it's stable. And I think that personally, I've been an investment manager for many years, allocating different assets into indices and, portfolios and so on. And the basic advice, which, differs from a lot of other people's, or not even advice, like my basic strategy is to differentiate and to diversify. So, you have some stable assets and you have some risky assets in your portfolio. Real estate is a relatively stable asset, yet you can still collateralize it, leverage it, and get loans. And now you have this DeFi space. So, in my mind, it's a win-win, right? I have a few answers to the questions and the comments that were posted here, but I'll let you go with your next one, and then I'll address.
Okay. Right. 1 second. I'm just looking. Was there a particular question that you saw in the chat that you wanted to address?
Okay. So I saw a few people who were like,
there's a lot of people asking about price and stuff, but I'm not including those or Dash specific ones because this AMA is about SolidBlock.
Yeah.
So,
no, I mean, the thing is, I think might be like I think that our mission at SolidBlock and, our ability to accept Dash and our ability to pay out in Dash is really beneficial to like all of the crypto community and specifically Dash. Even like I said, even if you buy it in fiat, and that's why I mentioned the possibility of obviously holding is great, but using it is great as well, right? So this is a utility of crypto, and I think this utility beyond just the store of value of crypto is its major strength. Like that's my opinion. And what you mentioned about Diff, that's super interesting because I wasn't even aware of the investment foundation. And I think we did speak about it briefly. And I want to explore that further because we are working with Maker and to invest as a group, and I think that's something we should definitely look into.
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to.
Sitting somewhere in a company, in an LLC, right, that owns not Mona Lisa. Let's say there is a Da Vinci painting that Da Vinci painting that is sitting in some sort of a corporate structure, and that corporate structure is issuing a security and then calling that token NFT as opposed to ERC20, what we're now using at SolidBlock. We can issue NFTs. We can use a different standard. We don't have to use ERC20. We can issue an NFT, but we in SolidBlock are never going to issue an NFT that is not securitized. As I mentioned, the security token is two things: securitization, digitization. Why are we not going to issue an NFT that's not securitized? Very simple. There is something that's called a Huey test or Howey test, whatever you pronounce that, in the United States at least, that differentiates a security from non-security. And simply, if you're investing in something to expect a positive outcome, to make money off of this investment, this is a security. So I would say, people who are investing in NFT right now, investors in NFT, are securing your ownership of one thing that's not fungible, right? Like one painting or one house or one something. And then there was kind of a loophole or even like a trick to convert that NFT into a lot of ERC20s. So he's kind of making it redundant. So, there's different standards created for different things, but then they become very buzzwordy and everybody's like, oh, I got to get me some NFTs. Or I got to issue me some NFTs. And I can't say that we haven't thought about it just because, it's like, oh, we should NFT this. And so what will stay though, what will stay for sure is the possibility to use blockchain for liquidity. Like that's a given. That's like such a major gift that Bitcoin brought to the world. Imagine the Bitcoin market. What is it? Can somebody give me a number right now? Trillion, like, how big is the total crypto market? I would say probably
$1.5 trillion now. I think it's pretty
how much?
Crazy.
How much?
1.5 trillion, I think.
1.5 trillion. How much is the total real estate market?
Oh, sorry, 1.7 trillion.
1.7.
Real estate. Oh, you're talking trillions of dollars. I mean, like
300.
Yeah.
300 trillion of dollars. And it's still not the biggest market out there, right? 300 trillion is just real estate. There's other stuff. There's oil and gas and, there's, huge markets out there that you can invest in. Just in terms of private offerings, by the way, private offerings of equity, because obviously you can do this beyond real estate. I think it was in 2017, it was around 2 trillion. So similar to the crypto market, right? But real estate is much, much bigger. So that's why I'm saying this is the biggest, in my mind, the biggest contribution in blockchain so far is to be able to convert liquid investments. Like obviously crypto market is gonna explode, is gonna be huge. I don't know if it's gonna be, probably top 20 currencies or something like that. It's going to grow. Right now, crypto adoption is at the very early stages. So, but at its height, it might match real estate market. It may not. It may or it may not, right? Let's see in 10, 20 years. I don't think it's going to match the real estate market, frankly. So that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking the biggest contribution of security token is to enable individuals and institutions to trade liquid assets.
Excellent. Thank you very much. There is a question here, which I think you would be well suited to answer. So what happens to property prices historically in a rising inflation environment? So I know I was talking about this before, and I was talking about the economic stimulus of central banks, but we were talking about diversification, right? The golden rule. But even in times of uncertainty, people do flock to safe haven assets. And, you said worked in investment funds and stuff before. So, I mean, I'm guessing you get this question a lot from family, friends, and all sorts. So, property is a good asset to have in a diversified portfolio.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's a more of a stabilizing asset, right? So you could have things like indices like S&P 500, which traditionally, let's say, increases at a 10% rate. Real estate also grows, yielding real estate will probably also grow at around 10% rate in the, best case scenario in good locations, right? Very comparable. Equity, though, obviously can grow much higher, right? Especially if you're a startup investor, but you should be prepared to lose all your money. So definitely highly recommend real estate, especially for beginner investors. Let's say you all of a sudden have extra $5,000. Like, what are you going to do with it? A lot of people come to us and tell us, "Oh, I want to invest in SolidBlock. I have some extra money." Well, ethically, you're not allowed to take money as a startup from somebody who doesn't have at least 10 times their investment in a liquid and format. By the way, ICOs definitely did not, operate on that level, right? So if somebody comes to me and they say, I have extra $5,000, I can't take that. Because I know that even though we're a company with revenues and then at a good position, it's still risky. So definitely real estate will stabilize your portfolio. And I would say if you only have a little bit of money, I wouldn't even go for Bitcoin, frankly. If you just have a few grand, I wouldn't even go for crypto. I would say first and foremost, get some real estate and then get some crypto. Of course, Dash and some crypto that you can be using to buy is an exception, right? So, it has some utility, just like I have some shekels in the bank, right? I can't avoid having some shekels in the bank. So that's that. Now, somebody who's here was asking about, and the question disappeared, about the inflationary. Do you remember what the question was, Mark?
Yeah, it was just basically what happens to property prices historically in a rise in inflation environment. So, if the prices, you're going to see supermarket prices go up, real estate go up. It's a bubble for a reason, right?
Yeah, well, real estate, it has a tendency in certain areas to become a bubble that usually doesn't necessarily burst unless there's a situation like what happened in 2008. And that was for a reason that's not related to the market itself, right? It was related to operations in the secondary market, I would say, right? Discrepancies in the rating of bonds, junk bonds specifically, right? But if we're looking at, in general, owning property in certain areas that are not hyped up, that are not bubble, that the values of property are pretty much on par with the prices, then I would say it's recommended by many investment advisors to hold property as a way to counterbalance the inflation. Property is expected to rise. Residential property is always expected to rise because there are more people living in the world, globally. On average, residential property is rising in prices because of that. There's nowhere to live. Of course, now there's some cities that are experiencing like mass desertion. People from San Francisco are moving to Texas. People from New York are moving to Florida. New York prices are going down, right? So there's always movements, right? There are always movements, but same thing as like Amazon shot up during COVID-19, and then companies, retailers are closing down, right? So it's all about how fast things change. So you can divest, right? If you had an apartment in New York and all of a sudden the prices went down, you couldn't sell, you're in a bind right now, right? Unlike, let's say, Amazon stocks or Macy's stocks that you could unload at any moment.
Excellent. So if there was any accredited investors watching this,
yes,
they have options to them available already. You have REITs, real estate investment trusts.
Correct.
So I'm wondering what you would say to them, because they say like, well, I've got this option here. Why would I use SolidBlock over that? Is there any distinct advantages?
Yes, there definitely are. REITs are a good option for people to invest. REIT is a real estate investment trust, and it's usually managed by knowledgeable individuals who decide which asset to invest in and then provide you with some sort of an interest. Which can be 8 to 10% a year, for example. So that's a great option for you guys. But if you have a desire to invest in a specific asset, if you want to be a part of the crypto as well, if you want to invest in crypto, get payouts in crypto, and if you want it to be liquid, right? Private REITs are not liquid. If you want to go back to the REIT and say, please, may I have my money back? They will probably buy you out, but they're going to determine the price. In the case of security tokens in the secondary market, we first of all expect to have a liquidity premium of around 30%. So as soon as these tokens go on an exchange, you expect to have a liquidity premium, and you can sell your tokens. And you don't have that with private REITs. So that's just a different way of investing. I think that if you're in the crypto business, then you should be investing through SolidBlock, or there's some other great platforms out there. I like Realty. I like Red Swan. If you're not into real estate and you want to invest in some funds or startups, then there's Securitized, Polymath. So those are some of the companies that offer security tokens today. So you can go check them out. And somebody's here is asking, where's your company based? We're a Delaware Inc., but the founders live in Israel. So I am talking to you from Tel Aviv, with this obscure background of New York behind me.
Thank you. Okay, well, we're fast approaching the 60-minute mark. So before we close, I just want to know, what are SolidBlock's future roadmap plans? You mentioned secondary markets. There's a lot of things moving on. Is there anything in your roadmap that you want to let the community know about? Yeah,
so our next step is DeFi. So a lot of people here are wondering. So we're not necessarily there in terms of using existing DeFi platforms, just because we need to take responsibility. We need to make sure there is KYC and AML, which is not found in most DeFi platforms. So we decided we're going to create our own. And as I mentioned, we'll create a network of asset managers that will decide what goes in, what goes out. And also we'll provide loans mechanism collateralized, for collateralizing tokens. So that's one thing. Another thing is creating higher liquidity. Again, we want responsibility for creating global liquidity pools. We're creating solutions to connect different exchanges, to aggregate products, and to place these tokens on the most active markets. So, our plan is to be the investment bank of the future, focused around real estate tokens.
Excellent, thank you. And if there's anyone watching this that checks out your marketplace, because you have a number of properties listed. Now, we mentioned the property in London with Dash, but as we indicated earlier, you can invest with fiat.
Anything.
In Dash. So is that open to all the marketplaces? Say, like, if I was a Russian investor and then I saw you outside London, I'd be like, oh, cool. Can I do that with fiat and then get paid in Dash? Or is that only applicable to London?
All right, let me explain again. Accredited investors can invest in anything we have in Dash. Anything you see on the platform, go ahead and put money. If you can prove, if you're an American, prove your level of income through tax returns. If you're not American, you can self-certify as a sophisticated investor. If you're a retail level investor, you can only go and do that through Republic in fiat today, right? So today we only have one project, hopefully soon more. But if you go to SolidBlock website and you click on the project, any project, and it will tell you that right now you're not able to invest. We'll let you know. If you click on the London project, you will be sent automatically to the Republic website. So you don't have to go and search for it on Republic. We'll send you there automatically.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much.
James says that they bought a lot of Dash. I wonder what they are.
Oh, boy. Yeah. Well, I look forward to seeing the price go up, James. Right. Okay. So just before we wrap up, so if people want to learn more about SolidBlock, where should they go? Where should they follow? What's the website? What's your social media? How should people get in contact with you?
Well, it's here on in my image. The website is solidblock.co, and just Google me and connect with me. I'm very approachable, and I have a great team that can definitely answer questions and talk to everybody. And I also talk to everybody, so I don't sleep. So all I do is talk to people. So be happy to talk to a few more dash holders. I love the community, by the way. Thank you guys for all the questions. You look great. I wonder where Daniel is. It looks like Dubai, isn't it? In that swimming pool.
Oh, a swimming pool. It looks very nice.
Like infinity pool. Yeah.
Outside during COVID. Excellent. Love it. Rightio. Okay, so we're coming up to the 60-minute mark. So I think that's a probably good time to close the AMA for today. So the 60 minutes are up. We sincerely hope that you found this AMA to be informative. I'd like to give my thanks to Yael for taking part in today's AMA. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. And by the way, there's some questions that weren't answered. So just ask me on LinkedIn. Somebody asked about a roadmap with timeframes. Yes, I have all that. So just talk to me and I'll be happy to provide. Thanks, everybody.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, I'd like to give my thanks to all of you for watching and participating in today's AMA. Please do let us know in the comment section if you enjoyed it. Please make sure to follow the official Dash social media profiles to stay up to date with the latest and greatest in Dash news, announcements, and software releases. If you're new to Dash and you'd wish to learn more, please visit the website dash.org. Thank you for your time and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.